Well, personally, I think it's important that we understand what took place, what transpired in the past, and accept fact for fact, history for history. You have now a narrative from the Serbian side to say that it did not take place, and we have to correct that. Only recently did we get recognition of 11th July as Memorial Day, only 3-4 years ago. It's a good step. But despite all the gruesome reality, I mean, you have positive stories. In fact, the night before I left Bosnia, Sarajevo, last Friday, I spoke to one war survivor who was in the war. He had his hand, half of it chopped off, his legs he's got shrapnels everywhere. And he was saying he was fighting in Sarajevo. And there were about 20,000 Serbs actually also fighting for the Bosnian Muslims. They did not take orders from the Serbs because they were good neighbors. They were good neighbors of the Muslims. They said, "How can we fight you when I've known you for 50 years, 30 years? You've been good to me." So they deliberately did not take orders from the Serb side. And
so there were
Serbs and Croats, about 20,000, who were actually
and
fighting.
Not just a handful, quite
significant. Who were fighting for the Bosnian Muslims. And of the 17,000 who were killed in Sarajevo, 4,000 were Serbs killed by Serbs. So you also have good side of the story. You also
and that's very important.
It is. I mean, it's one thing to look at the negative and the dark side of history, but we also have to move on and move forward. We can't just look at the past. But what the Bosnians want, the bare minimum, is justice done. Otherwise you can't live a life. How can you live a life with someone or stay together if you don't know this person has been brought to justice? That's all they want. Beyond that, they can live together. It's not a problem. So I think it's important that we have such memorials. We have more international community coming and observing these kind of things and raise more awareness. And this is one reason why we take groups almost every year to Bosnia from the Muslim community.
Has that started to increase over the years? So maybe youngsters who may not themselves know about it, just as it's important, for example, the Holocaust is remembered that it will never happen again. Do you think it's important that this genocide that took place after the Second World War, after the Holocaust, when we thought the lessons of that kind of ethnic cleansing would have been learnt, and yet in the heart of Europe in the 1990s, this massacre took place? I think it's especially important for Muslim children to know about this. I mean, what are your views?
There's a lot of Islamic heritage in Bosnia, I think, and I would encourage all of our second, third generation, even first generation, to go and see, because there's 500-600 years of history. When we prayed in some of the oldest mosques in Bosnia. About 500-600 years ago it was built, and still it looks so nice. It fills your heart when you go and pray in there, and I feel like you're back in time, back in the history again. And now what I've noticed this year is so many Muslims coming from different parts of the Muslim world. We've met Muslims from the Middle East, families coming and going around, and they really love the architecture, the landscape. In every single Muslim, every single town in Bosnia is in between in valleys, and then there's a river going in through the city of the town. Such a beautiful scenes there. If you don't do anything else, just go around the country, you'll feel really good. And I would recommend our Muslim families and
because again, Bosnia is not a place that most people think of in terms of visiting.
No.
So is that something you would be encouraging as well, that people should actually consciously make that link? People go to Palestine, people go to the Middle East. There's that awareness of that link, and yet right at the heart of Europe, often that link isn't recognised.
When I went first time, it was only 2 hours flight. We had direct flights for BA, but they've stopped it now. And when I went there, I was surprised and really taken back by the Islamic scholarship, the Islamic heritage. You have young people, 25, 30, no beard, but they're hafiz of the Quran. They've studied 6 years in Azhar, or they're in Mu'adhin. They recite beautifully. You have sisters, deep scholarship, the teachers and faculties. And in terms of scholarship, it's probably richer than here in England, over there. But they look ordinary people, but they're deep, they're very steeped in Islamic knowledge. We have young people.
Do you think sometimes there has not been an acknowledgement on the part of British Muslims about the scholarship and what we can learn, and it's not just a situation where people are feeling pity or upset in terms of physical atrocities, but actually in terms of what we ourselves could have gained.
Absolutely, and we are gaining from the likes of the Grand Mufti, people like Imam Kinan Musij, Ahmed Ali Bashi, who visit Britain every now and then. But when you're there, you see the reality, the madrasa system, the Islamic curriculum, the hufaz and everything else. It's really, really inspiring. So I think...
So you felt you actually gained something yourself from going there whilst you were going to express your brotherhood, your solidarity, your sympathy. Actually, you felt you came away with something positive.
I came back inspired, but also at the same time, they feel very touched by our visit there because they feel they're alone at the moment. So when you have people from Britain and America go there, they feel they're not alone anymore, and we can share and learn from each other's experiences. So yeah, it's definitely we need to increase more visits.
Well, thank you very much for coming into the studio and sharing your very deeply moving experiences. We'll be joined at the same time next week for a very different topic.